And I could promise you, I can go find another kid that does exactly what you do. That'll have a good attitude. That'll work hard. That'll push it. You're not special. Like, and that's the thing I think, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you're not special. There's a lot of kids that are just as talented as you that want to push.
I'll help you print the t-shirts that just say you're not special. And I'll wear one every day, because I think that message, it's probably not super popular right now, but I think more people need to hear it. I'm Billy Ryan, and this is the No One Is Watching podcast, where we explore high-performing teams, individuals, and leaders, and dig deep to find out what makes them tick. This show highlights the DNA shared by elite performers, the process by which they leverage that talent, and ultimately helps you apply those lessons to your own life, business, or team. Did you play a bunch of sports growing up as a kid? I grew up in New England, so it was like you get the 4 seasons, you run around, you play all the sports. Florida's a little different animal. Did you play one sport or multiple?
No, I played multiple sports. Played basketball, football, soccer. Well, I played football in high school. Those other sports I played when I was in my youth.
Sure.
Raced BMX. So I did it all. Played baseball.
Nice. And then went, did you ever, was baseball always the first love? Was that kind of your favorite?
Yeah, baseball was always my first love. My grandparents would pick me up from school every day, and they're from Chicago, and they'd have the Cubs game on WGN. And so most of the time they were always playing day games. And so I'd come home, get my cookies and milk, and sit there and watch the Cubs play. And, Ryan Sandberg, Andre Dawson, and Schwan Dunston, the whole crew.
Yeah.
So that was my afternoons after school.
So, a lot of Cubs and Braves fans were born that way between WGN and TBS, right?
That's right.
They capitalized on that pretty good.
They did. They did.
So you played baseball along, right? Obviously, accomplished athlete. Go to UF, have pretty good success right out of the chute with the Gators, right?
Yeah, I would say, I grew up there. My freshman year, though, I came in anticipating that I was going to start. I did not start. That was a dose of reality that I wasn't prepared for. It was really mentally challenging for me. Being the guy you think is going to be the starter as a freshman and not starting, it was tough. And then, frankly, I had played like half the season, had like 120 at bats. I still hit like 14 home runs and a good amount of RBIs and average. And I remember arguing with my coach one day, who I love, and I think he would say the same thing, Pat McMahon. And I was like, I went into his office and I told my dad at first, I said, Dad, can you, I'm 18. I'm like, Dad, can you talk to this guy? He's like, no, you got to go talk to him. You got to put your big boy pants on and go do it. I said, okay. So I went and talked to coach, and I remember at one point we were like, not arguing, but we were intense across the desk. And I'm like, I'm the best player on your team. Why am I not playing? And he's like, oh, we're trying to teach you this and this and that. I'm like, I don't care. This is crazy. Why am I not playing? So anyway, it obviously got a lot better after that season, but I finished the season strong. I still was a freshman All-American and still very fortunate.
Sure.
But yeah.
It was
a good time.
What was your recruiting experience like out of high school? Was it always the Gators for you being a Florida kid, or?
Yeah. So, again, growing up a Cubs fan, all I wanted to do was play for the Chicago Cubs. That was it. They actually drafted me in the 14th round in 2003. And so it was really hard for me to turn that down. But my head baseball coach at a high school, Dave Tillett, who's actually the head baseball coach now at Florida Gulf Coast, he started that program. We were talking, and he said to me, he goes, Matt, hey, listen, if you can't go to college and improve your draft stock, you were never going to make it to the big leagues. And I was like, for me, it resonated. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I'm going to take that one to the bank. And so I didn't look at a lot of schools. Now, I was recruited by a lot of schools, the LSUs, Arkansas's, Wake Forest, all the big schools that you would think. Originally, I wanted to go to, my thought was to go to Miami. They just had a really good baseball program.
Yeah.
but I caught then, and they had a catcher that was ahead of me by a year. And I was like, I'm never going to play here. And my mom went to the University of Florida, and so it was like, and I took a visit there. I was like, this seems like the place to go. Let's go to school here. And it was awesome. Like as soon as I really stepped on campus, I just kind of fell in love with it. I was like, this is it. Let's make it happen here.
Yeah. Did you go in? So you went in as a catcher your freshman year?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I went in as a catcher my freshman year at Florida.
How much did you play catcher the whole year? They moved you around a little bit.
No. So we had another guy, Brian Geralaman, who was like an unbelievable catch and throw guy.
I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was just unbelievable, and he was on the money with everything. I was still raw behind the plate. He was a little more polished, but he didn't really hit as well as I did. But he did get the nod over me. He started. And so, I mean, I would come in and here and there and pinch hit. I mean, I was frankly, I was a bad teammate, and not to hit, just in general. Like, I think I needed to grow up. I would be pouting into the dugout, watching the game, not really being involved. Like my mind's elsewhere. And it just kind of seething at how mad I was that I wasn't starting. And finally, when I would get chances to start, I'd be like, look, I tell myself, it's your one time to start. You got to show up, or if you get a pinch hit, you got to show up, and you got to prove to them. And so that was kind of always the mindset. Like, I'm going to prove to them, like, I'm the best player on this team, and you should have been playing me. And I could have hit 25 home runs for you and drove in whatever. So, but I learned from that. It was a tough lesson, and Coach Mack really did a great job at teaching me how to be a good teammate, how to be a solid human being, young man, and really persevere through challenging situations.
Yeah, tell me more about the teammate thing. I always love to ask people how they view that, right? I mean, you came in super talented, expectations, probably a sense of, I'm putting words in your mouth now, but a sense of entitlement to some extent, right? I'm your best player. Why aren't I playing kind of thing? And then what was that evolution like for you?
Yeah. I mean, the entitlement is probably like, I am your best player, but I worked my butt off. I didn't have, and the expectation was set because I was told that I would start as a freshman, and it all made sense because we didn't have another catcher, right? The catcher had already gone. It was two freshmen coming in, and I was like, dude, I'm going to start over Brian, right? And then it just, again, realized that was not going to happen. And so it was really tough, but it drove me to just, keep getting better and keep focusing on. It was weird. It was like, it drove me to get better, but it also taught me you have to kind of somehow separate yourself too from the situation in the game. It was an interesting time where I can't put all my self-worth and value into me playing this game.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah. I'll equate it to my own life, right? But like at that point in your life, that is your whole identity, right? Yeah. Like what are you? I'm a baseball player, right? I'm an athlete. That's what I do. And so right. That's not like the lead story anymore. I mean, it still kind of is, but it's just not maybe the story you want to share because you're not playing as much as I think it should be, whatever. Like that's hard, and that's, you probably, I would imagine, learned some things along those same lines in Pro Bowl, but whoever told you, your coach at the time, right, that you got to go prove it in college, I think it's pretty wise, right? Just that little hint of adversity. I mean, look, you were still a freshman All-American. It's not like you fell on your face.
Right.
But, I mean, it's probably easier to learn that lesson at UF than in, Spokane, Washington at 18.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was tough, but it was a great learning lesson, how to persevere through really challenging times. And, again, I felt like I had let my family down and friends down and all of this when I wasn't playing every day. But, again, I think as an 18-year-old, we only see such a finite period of time where it's like, dude, looking back at 40, like, man, that wasn't that, like, that was nothing. It was 3 months of your baseball life. Like, get over it.
Right. there's a lot. We talk a lot about, talked about this over the years with athletes specifically. You want that. It's a fine line between that confidence, going too far, becoming arrogance, right? But
Yeah.
also the self-awareness, nobody at 18 has that perspective on it, right? Like, hey, and you can't say it to any kid that thinks his world is collapsing. Hey man, it's not that big a deal. You look back on this when you're 40 and kind of laugh at
Right.
yourself. You don't have that. It doesn't play very well with 18-year-old
Right.
alpha
Right.
males, but it's a good, pretty, it's a small sample size lesson for you on, self-worth being rolled up into what you do rather than who you are.
Right. Yeah. There's a big lesson.
Yeah. So then you go, have a really good sophomore year, right? And do some pretty good things in Florida. Really have a great, fast forward to the end of the career, right? Tremendous college career. You get drafted a couple times. You decide to stick around for your senior year. Wind up going 7 overall to the Brewers, and you're kind of on your way. And I read somewhere that you talked about Ryan Braun being a little bit of a, you coming from, Miami, playing against him, seeing kind of what he did. Similar profiles in the sense that it's right-handed hitting, bat first, top 10 pick, same team, right? Like you,
Yeah.
there's obvious parallels there. So that was kind of, I imagine, sort of the measuring stick for you at one point in your career.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had a tremendous career but yeah, he was always 1 year ahead of me. And so we would play against each other at Miami and I'd be like, okay, this guy's doing this. Like he was whatever, 5th pick or 3rd pick, or whatever he was.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that could be me. Right. Like, and so, he's a corner guy and, while I always felt that I had a little bit more power than him, he was just always a really good hitter. And his power really came to life professionally. But it was a great measuring stick. It was a great kind of, carrot for me to go chase after. And then to see the success that he had early on with Milwaukee, I was like, okay, cool. Like it gave me the confidence that I could go in and I could step in and start having some of that same success.
Mm-hmm.
Now that didn't transpire the way that I had hoped, due to some injuries, but that was kind of always that, it was like I was right in, right behind him, like trying to follow what he was doing.
Right. So you're a compare and contrast the shift from high school to college for me versus the shift from college to pro. I mean, probably high profile, a lot of attention paid to you in both fronts on different scales. But what was that like for a transition to pro ball?
Yeah. So, transition to pro ball. Well, I kind of walked through those. Like out of high school, obviously I went to the University of Florida, so it must have been okay.
Right.
But I mean, nowadays I wasn't a high profile player by any of the, I just was in Florida and good enough, I guess, to get to the University of Florida. But we didn't have, and I didn't do like the perfect game stuff. I wasn't ranked anywhere. I was like kind of I don't want to say a nobody because I don't think I'm giving myself any credit, but I really wasn't, in my eyes, I didn't feel like I was anybody. Like, and so, and then in college, I really felt that, especially my freshman year. But after that, my sophomore year, I was like, oh dang, my hard work is finally paying off. I could be good at this.
So
game.
even you're getting recruited from all these big SEC schools, these top programs, and you're still saying, who am I? Because I'm not ranked in perfect game or whatever it is. Or what was that? Was it chip on your shoulder?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there would be guys that meet Jared Saltamacchia. Like he was another great catcher that played a long time. I think he was a first rounder, supplemental first rounder, and I remember he was the guy. He was the guy, and I'm like, man, what is he doing that's different than me? Maybe he's just that much better. People see something in him that they don't see in me, and so I was like, it's okay. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep grinding. I'm gonna get there too. But yeah, I never felt like I just never felt like I was a guy or there. Like I always. Yeah, I knew what I had inside of me. I knew the gift I had, which was power and hitting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't know how other people viewed me because nobody ever talked about me like that at that time.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, and then when I got to pro ball, I was, I'm like, I don't know, is it going to happen? A lot of people are like, oh, they can't make the transition. I'm like, but I had a chip on my shoulder because I got drafted 3 times. I was a senior,
Yeah.
so I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Like I still got to keep working, improving myself a little bit.
Tell me a little bit
But I
about
also,
that. The decision to stay in college. I mean, you drafted
oh man,
14th round, both out of high school and your junior year. Is that right?
yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
3 picks worse out of college than out of high school. So it's crazy. I mean, I had, again, I my sophomore year led the country in home runs, first team All-American. We go to the College World Series, play on the USA team. I mean, and on my USA team, I've got Max Scherzer, David Price, John Jay, Chris Perez, JP. I mean, we were
Yeah, the team's loaded. Man. Yeah.
And and I was like the guy on that team, and so everybody at that point had me kind of ranked at top 3 pick, top 5 pick, and I got hurt my junior year, and I shouldn't have played. I should just kind of waited out because I came back, wasn't really healthy, and then I played like crap. Hence why I was a 14th rounder again.
Right.
And but I knew that if I had a good season, I wouldn't have been there. Like that's not indicative of the type of player I am or was. And so at the time, my advisor was Scott Boras, and I remember talking with them, and they're like, "Look, man, you have what everybody wants, which is power. Like that's not going anywhere. Go back. You'll or think about going back." And so that was one thing I kept in mind. And then the other piece was I remember talking to him. So in college, if you step back on campus, you got to go, or you step back in your classroom, you're committed to go to that year. Yep. So the first day of class, I don't go to my classes, and my counselor is calling me, coach is calling me, where are you at? And I'm at that time, I'm 21. I'm like, oh man, what do I do? Am I going to sign this pro contract? I'm waiting on the Red Sox, waiting on Scott. I call Scott, what are the Red Sox going to say or do? He calls me back like 10 minutes later. He goes, look, they're not going to pay you more than what they paid their first rounder that year. Daniel Bard might have been their first rounder.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I went to my room, and I really just like prayed about it. It was like, all right, what should I do here? Kind of like that was the mindset, right? And just looking for a sign, looking for anything.
Right.
And it was like, all of a sudden I got this like, in my head, like, go back to college. I went back to college, and everybody thought I was nuts and, crazy. And I knew going back was probably a little risky. I mean, you potentially turning down 7 figures, but I was like, it kind of motivated me in a way where I literally have to be the best player in the country to get drafted in the first round, which was almost this. It was weird. It was almost like this freeing release just to go, look, you know what you got to do. You got to be the best player in the country. There's no pressure, no stress. You just have to go do it. Yeah. If you don't do it, you're going to be a 14th rounder again. Yeah. Simple.
Right. Third time's the charm.
you know?
It's a great point. I don't think people can, people that aren't close to the game can appreciate the dynamics there. So coming out as a junior, your leverage is, well, I'm going to go back to school, right? If we can't reach an agreement with the club financially, and it sounds like Sox were willing to overpay you, relative to where they took you because they saw your talent, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm confident. I'm going to have a great senior year. They're going to draft me. I'm going to make a bunch of money. I'm going to go in the first round. But the reality of that is teams can still say, well, what else are you going to do? You're going to go play indie ball. You're going to go, what are you going to go overseas? Right. And a couple guys started.
Right.
So it's a bigger deal, I think, it's a bigger bet on yourself, I think, than most people would probably give you credit for. Then you go back and you go top 10 in the country. And that's, that in and of itself, especially, quite honestly, especially given your profile, right? Like corner, right-handed hitter. That's a pretty big carrot for you to go top 10 as a senior at that point, right?
Yeah. It was, it was surreal that whole season, but it was one where I would say I probably had the most It was the most freeing season of baseball that I ever played. It
Yeah, I was going
was
to ask you.
probably the highest and most intense from a, hey, you could be, maybe you're getting a sack of lunch here to go sign your next contract, right? Like, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't about that. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to get better. I'm going to prove to people I am better. I'm going to get my degree from UF. I mean, it all worked out better than I think I could have ever anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Um, Talked a little bit about the injuries your freshman year. I mean, what role did adversity play, throughout your playing career, whether it's injuries, performance, expectations, you name it?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. There was I feel like a lot of adversity looking back. I mean, my junior year when I pulled my oblique, um, that was tough. And you got to realize as a competitor, you need to rehab. You got to get better. You do know you're of no value to the team and to yourself if you're coming out on the field and performing at an inadequate level, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's only a bad look because everybody looks at you. Well, he's out there performing. But he just sucks now, right? And so, but you're the one that like nobody can see your pain, nobody can see your injury. So you have to really be, I think mindful of that. And then my senior year, probably 3/4 of the way through the season, most people didn't know this because I was already slow. I wasn't fast, but you know, I pulled my right quad. I kind of tweaked it, and then we were playing Tennessee, and Julio Bourbon bunted a ball, and I took off, and I could just feel it. I just felt it pop, and so I took a week off, and just tried to. We were so bad too. My senior year, I was like, dude, if you don't play, we got nobody. Like this is gonna be awful. And and in my head, I'm like, man, I gotta be out here on the field. I can't look like I'm hurt again, and this and that. And so I'm wrapping up my quad and trying to make it feel as good as it can feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, but there's times I remember we played LSU. We're playing at LSU at the box, and I'm up to bat. I'm like, Matt, you got to find a way to hit this ball at the ballpark because you can't run. There's no way you cannot run right now. Sure enough, boom, hit that one out. And I mean, but that was like the mindset that weekend. I was like, I just physically cannot run. I remember I hit a ball in the gap. It should have been a double. I'm at first base. Next guy's up. He hits a ball in the gap that should have easily been a double for him. I'm at second base.
Right.
It was not great, but
Yeah.
you did what you had to do.
Yeah. I think it's a great point that I mean, from a leadership perspective, right? The people don't see the injuries. People don't really care. If you had a bad night's sleep, the kid kept you up all night, whatever's going on at home, you got to show up the next day, you got to post, right? And
Yeah,
everybody's human. Everybody has a bad day, but at the end, really very few people care. Your family's going to care, the people that are really close to you, they're going to care. Hey, you're going to be able to get through this week or whatever. But most of the folks that you're around, they don't care. You got to show up and you got to put points on the board.
that's right. I mean, and I would tell everybody that all the time. I'd be like, Major League Baseball is such a grind. They don't care if your dog died, your grandma died. Nobody cares. Like, and I don't mean that to be insensitive. It's just that
Sure.
nobody cares. Your friend's getting married. Who cares? Like, it's whatever. 4th of July, you're going out and performing. It doesn't matter. It's like, oh, it's Mother's Day. It's Easter. So you got to go perform. No one cares. And I think that's a lot like life. You got to go out and perform. No. Yes, of course, your friends and family probably care that your dog died or your mother or somebody passed away. And I don't mean to be morbid, but I mean, that's the reality. Like, life doesn't care, and life comes every day. It's coming every day, and it's been doing it for thousands of years.
Yeah, it's not gonna stop.
Every day that sun comes up, every day that sun goes down, right? It's up to you. How are you going to look at that next day mentally? How are you going to figure it out? It's a grind.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw this thing on somewhere online recently. I don't know if it's from some sitcom or whatever. This young girl in an office, and it's like a Friday, the beginning of summer, and she's like, "Oh man, I'm so excited for summer! Like, what are you guys gonna do this summer? I'm gonna miss you. Can't wait to see you in the fall." And there's like these 55-year-old people in the office. They're like, "What are you talking about? And she's like, well, I mean, summer break. Like, what are you guys going to do? And they're like, summer break. Like,
Yeah.
She's like, you work year round? You go, yeah. Yeah. And so it's just funny because, a kid grow up, your summers are like, you just live for your summers.
Right.
And to this day, Labor Day, Memorial, all the bank holidays, I cannot remember them. I don't know when they are because for 20 years, I never celebrated them. I didn't know they were just irrelevant to me. Right.
Yeah. Same way. I have no idea when holidays are. I'm like, I'll look and it'll be that day. And I'm like, oh shoot, I booked. Like, I had an on-site meeting with a group, Memorial Day. I booked it. I had no idea it was Memorial Day. My wife's like, that's Memorial Day. I'm like, I do now. It's too late. I gotta go. So
right. So you talked about getting your degree from UF as a player, right? And then you go on, pro ball, Brewers. What I want to gloss over your playing career at post college for a minute. What motivated you to go to B school? What was the impetus for you there?
Yeah. Well, so I go back again. Remember, I got hurt my junior year. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to make money in life? Because up until that point, all I focused on was baseball. That's all I cared about.
Right.
And again, I mean, I was, I'm still young. I'm not, but I didn't think of anything else. I didn't think of any other careers. The only other two careers that I knew were out there was an electrician, because that's what my dad was, and a teacher, because that's what my mom was.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't want to do either one of those. And not that there's anything wrong with it. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea. So I just started reading books and just learning and going, this like private equity investing or buying, this is interesting. And so I just kind of stayed in that world while I was playing and post playing. We had some friends that, had private equity companies that I had met along the way. And, we had looked at different deals and I was like, I like this. This is, you're putting your money to work, but you're putting it in, you're not only are you buying a business, you're buying some human, buying like that human side of things of like, you can find out, like, I remember we did a deal in Orlando a couple of years ago. And I told, our investors, I was like, this kid, he's not a kid. He's like 35, 36. I was like, this guy's a winner. Like, the business is a good, nice business. This guy's a winner. And I promise you, he's going to get us the returns that we need. He's going to find any way he can to do it. And so I'm betting on him too. And so that's where I felt like I could use a lot of the baseball piece in the investing world. And so what made me really go back for that was I wanted to really, I don't know if I needed it, but we all need it, right? Or I needed it, but I didn't, to do what I'm doing. I wouldn't have changed to doing what I'm doing. I think I went back to really show, just again, add more credibility to what I'm already doing and who I am. And honestly, to show my kids a little bit too, that because in sports, this was the biggest comment everybody, why are you going back? You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. But I'm like, well, in sports, let's think about it. I only tried to get this much better at baseball, because this much better is a difference in maybe hitting 30 home runs versus 20 home runs, maybe being an all-star or a Hall of Famer, whatever it is. But I'm only trying to get this much better. And so that's how I approached it. Can I get that much better? That's going to have huge results for me later on in life. And that's why I went back. And it taught me a ton of, ways to create frameworks, to look at businesses, to look at opportunities, kind of like a checklist of going through the process, and just was really grateful for the experience and very fortunate that I was able to go through it.
What was that adjustment like for you? You were first round pick, get to the big leagues, a couple years in the big leagues, you go to, Team USA, you go to the Olympics, you win a bronze medal. You'd done some pretty cool stuff in your life, right? In your career. And, and then like everybody, it's eventually somebody tells you it's time to hang them up. And then all of a sudden you're sitting in a business room classroom. Like, what's that transition like for you?
Yeah. So it took me a few years before I went back to get that, cause we had 4 young kids, and my wife was like, you're not going anywhere right now. You're going to be stuck. You're going to be right here. You can There's
You've
no
been going
golf on
long
the
enough.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. There's no golf on the weekend, and be home about 5:30. I'm like, okay. She's like, I don't care what you do during the week between 9 and 5. You can do whatever you want, but be home. Because we had the kids. It was like, dude, between 5 and 7 was just
Yeah.
nuts for us
Chaos
for
time.
several
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And so, that transition was tough, man. I'd be lying to you if I said it was easy and a walk in the park. I mean, I remember standing out on now it's our back deck, but our back patio, and we were building a new house, and beautiful house overlooking water. Like, seemingly everything was going fine. And I remember there was a season there where it was just like, I felt like I was in a dark hole and no way out. Dark room. I was like, I don't know how to get out of this. Are you kidding? I've got 4 beautiful kids, healthy, a great wife. Like, outside, everything looked perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But inside,
Just when you were playing?
No, when I was done.
When you were done. Okay.
Yeah, the transition out and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was challenging. There was definitely challenges kind of coming out of that transition.
How much of that is wrapped up in what we talked about earlier? Just as much as you fight it, right? Like, you don't want what you do to be who you are, but that's what you did for your entire life up into that point, right?
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it. I think figuring out, what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've done this for so long. What do I do next? And knowing and thinking, hey, I'm probably like 10 years behind the 8 ball compared to a lot of people. What am I going to do next? And how, and I think playing baseball, playing in the big leagues, you sometimes you have a sense of ego and a sense of pride, and you go, man, there's no one's going to be cheering me on in this next life of work. Nobody's going to be like, hey, you did a deal. Yeah. And you got to have 50,000 fans around you.
Yeah.
You're going to do a deal and nobody's going to know.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that was the other part too, is like, I was so used to living a life of, call it on a scale of 1 to 10 of excitement, a 9 or a 10 for the majority of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And now I come home and I'm like, life is kind of boring. We're living at 2 and 3. And I remember telling my wife that. She's like, man, don't tell me that, but I hear what you're saying.
Right.
So it's tough. And again, it's like, what can you do to fill and find that excitement again that just gets you energized? And I think that's, where I've been at and where I'm at recently is just, I'm in that flow now where I found, we're working on stuff that's really exciting, and, it's been great.
That's awesome, man. I think you see that a lot with the military, right? Where they get out and they don't, the hurt locker, right? The guy's a bomb tech and he just keeps coming back because he can't replace that adrenaline rush. He doesn't know what to do with himself at home. He doesn't know how to behave in normal society. And I don't think people can understand I can't speak to the veteran piece of it, and I didn't play in the big leagues, but as an ex-athlete, what that's like. That's a big chunk of your identity, what you love, who you are, and how do you find that? It's not something where you can just be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to sign the retirement papers, and then I'm going to go to business school the next day and start this next chapter of my life, right? Like, that it may take you a week, it may take you 10 years, but there's a lot that goes into that. And I'm pumped for you that you found something that kind of feeds you that same way. A lot of that's a paradigm shift, right? Like, it's not your point about, hey, there's not going to be 40,000 people. They're not going to, they're not going to buy my jersey, my dress shirt with my name on it after I close this deal. Like, they maybe do, right? But it's still important, and it's still part of my life, and being able to find that sort of that anchor point, which it sounds like it took you a while, but you did. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but I've been able to now turn that page, and and I think going back to B school helped me with that. Really, just turning the page and being like, all right, this is kind of who you are now, right? Like, this was a part of you, and and I talk to very successful people a lot, and they're like, man, you're fortunate. I'm like, well, tell me why so. I go, my boy Max Scherzer's still pitching in the big leagues. I mean, perhaps if I didn't get hurt, maybe I'm not still playing, but maybe it was only a couple of years ago when I got out of the game. But they're like, no, you have an opportunity to have 2 careers, right? You had your first one, which is great in baseball, and one thing everybody wanted to do their entire life, and now you've got this other opportunity that's a lot of fun that you're in. So I do feel very fortunate to be where I'm at.
Yeah. The other parallel that I think equates to military, right, is guys that get out of sports. To your point, you didn't know what to do when what am I going to be when I grow up? A lot of guys get into scouting or coaching just because, to your point, it's all I know, right? My dad was an electrician, my mom was a teacher. I'm just going to follow that path. If you played baseball your whole life and you can't imagine. And I was like this at one point, like the idea of like getting up and just going to a job from 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. This was in like college. I mean, this is like the most depressing thought I can ever imagine,
Yeah.
And there was some people are just like, well, I'm just gonna stay in baseball, right? And I'll be a coach or a scout or an executive, whatever. But then these, you've got to get outside in order to get that perspective sometimes. And
right.
I love what you were talking about earlier about the because I view it the same exact way. Buying the people, right? No matter what investment you're making, no matter what hire you make, I really embrace the philosophy of hiring for character, training for skill. Like you got to have the general SAT scores to get into the school, so to speak. But ultimately, I'm buying the human being and figuring out like that person's a winner. They're going to figure it out. I like the analogy I use is it's like a pickup basketball game, right? Like you may not be able to shoot, but I can, you're athletic. I know you can probably play defense and rebound and box guys out. Like you're going to help us win. Like that's the kind of thing that I imagine you use, as you're evaluating deals.
I want that competitor, right? Who's that competitor, right? I mean, we talk about it on my kids. I got twin boys that are 11, and we talk about it on their baseball team. I've got a team full of kids. I didn't pick the team. So we've got a team full of kids that aren't vocal, aren't leaders, aren't guys that want to grind and run through a wall. And, you're like, you get beat because none of you guys have that. You don't have that. Like, I don't care if you don't have talent. Forget about talent. We can all have a competitive edge. We can all have energy. And so that's what I'm looking for in people, right? Who are the people that just are just going to keep pushing? When the going gets tough, I know it's a silly saying, the tough get going, right? And there's so many people that just aren't like that. And so when you find that, to me, that's just as valuable as a lot of other pieces when you're looking at acquiring businesses or getting new people in. You got to find those people that just find a way to push through. And that's why athletes, I think a lot of athletes that play at high levels understand that. That's why my two daughters run track. My wife ran track at UF too. And, we make them run track. A, my wife wants them to run track. She just loves it. But B, they're like, I hate this. This is really hard. And I'm like, I hear you. I would not want to run track, but I hear you. I go, but you got two options because mom's going to make you run track, because you're not doing another sport right now. So mom's going to make you run track. So you have two options. You can run track and go through the practices and do all of that and it suck and go out and compete and still stink. Or you could go do the track practices, push it a little bit. It's still going to suck and go to the meets and compete and win. But you're going to still run track right now, and it's not going to be fun. So you mentally have to figure out, how do I push through this? And I mean, and that's like, to me, that's the biggest part. Like, how are you mentally going to push through this? Like, we would have to go to do this hill in Sarasota, and I'd wake up when we do it, and I would do it with them. I'm like, you guys ready for hell? Because it was awful. And these kids are 9 and 13. Yeah, I made my boys come too on that one. But, I'm like, they would think about it all week. They would think about this thing.
Right.
You remember that when you play, you would think about, oh man, I got this training thing that how can I get out of it? And you're like, I can't. There's no way I can get out of it.
Right.
And so it's just developing that toughness is what I think sports does, and it's hard to find that in people.
Yeah. I mean, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but like I completely agree. And I think that, we're all, any athlete, I shouldn't say any athlete, you're a little bit sick in the head sometimes, right? For doing what you're doing. Like I always embraced, like, there were the days where you're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this, or I know it's coming. I don't want to deal with it. But then there are other days where you're like, let's go. This is going to suck, but it's going to suck, and we're going to do it together, and we're going to get better because of it. And like the people that can kind of embrace that, And that was honestly, that was a big shift for me. Getting out of baseball and working sort of in the, quote unquote, the private sector. And you start seeing people who are not wired that way. And you see
Right.
at the very first like bump in the road, it's like, shut it down. Like, well, that's not going to work. We're just going to go somewhere
Right.
else. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? And you realize that all those things that are ingrained in you, it doesn't matter if you play in the big leagues or you stop playing in 8th grade, but being able to push through those hard things, knowing, I'm going to let you say it, like, it's going to suck and you're going to have to do it regardless. So it's a matter of like, maybe you get a little bit of joy out of it on like race day, right? Like maybe a little bit, maybe not. Right.
Yeah. Maybe, that's it. Maybe there's a little bit of joy when you go out there and dominate another kid.
Yep.
It's up to you. I don't make that choice.
Right.
Right.
What are some of the things you lean on the most? I mean, whether it's leadership lessons or, evaluating human beings, in the business world that, you either had in you at a young age as an athlete, or you sort of acquired over the years. I mean, you had an extensive athletic career and we all pick up tools along the way. What are the things you think you lean on the most in sort of the second career for you?
Yeah, this kind of, I don't like using this word, but no quit, right? We're going to keep finding a way. We're going to find a way to get it done. It may not be the way I want it to be, but we're not going to give up on it. We're going to keep pushing. And, like I said, I mean, it took me some time to get into private equity and investment banking, and I could have easily quit trying to go to that route. It just said, hey, you know what? I'll just take, this job and I'll be happy, and maybe it's in whatever, there's another industry that I love and I think it's fantastic, is insurance. I think it's an incredible industry and I think you can do incredibly well in it. And although I could have done well and been there, and it's not where I wanted to be. And so it was like the grit to keep persevering and pushing through to get to where I really wanted to go. And so that's, the one thing is just have that perseverance, man. You got to have that to get anything you want in life, whether it's a healthy marriage, being a good parent to your kids. You got to have the perseverance to push through, because you're not always going to want to be a good parent. You're not always going to want to be a good husband, but you got to have that, perseverance, or things in life or work are tough. Or again, family things come up and, that are unforeseen, but you've got to find a way to get that perseverance and push through to the next day. And so how I would try to break that down really is I try to always do it a day at a time. I just got to push through today, right? Because I think if you start going, man, it's going to be like this for the next 6 years or 3 years or 1 year, yeah. that looks like a daunting task. But if I can just push through today, if I can make the right decisions today, eventually over time, I'm going to win out.
Yeah. So how do you go through with the work you do at Wayfinder, assessing for perseverance, right? Because you're going to see, I mean, they can show you the books, but you're going to see the face that they want you to see, when you're evaluating a business. So how do you do that from arm's length when you're, in your current job?
Yeah. I mean, we have conversations, multiple conversations. Like, tell me about your past. Tell me how you grew up. Tell me where you grew up. Tell me, what did you do prior to this? Like, paint the picture. How did you get into this space? Why did you get into this space? Tell me what happens when times are tough in this world. In your business, what did you do? What were the sacrifices you made or didn't make? Like, I think finding out who they are, what makes them tick, what have they been through? Really, I like finding out what have people been through. Yeah. What have you been through? If you've had a life of ease, dude, first time adversity comes, it's going to be, you're going to fall flat on your face. I'll give you a perfect example, and this is a very small example. My boys played tackle football too. And their football team, we had our coaches meeting the other day, and their team that they're on this year was different than last year. Have always been a really good team. I mean, they didn't even let, like, I don't know, maybe a handful of first downs the whole season. They get into like the regional or whatever, and they go play a team in Venice, and they go get smacked in the mouth. And what happened was they had never actually faced a competition that was pushing back on them. And so when that adversity came, they crumbled. They didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't know how to deal with the failure or that challenge. And so, I want to know what adversity have you gone through? What challenges have you gone through? Have you went through the wall, Adam, or did you just kind of cower and go, I'm not going to go that way? It didn't work out for me. Like, I got kids on my Little League team. Kid hits a home run or has coach, he got lucky. Or coach, it's because the umpires, he's not calling good strikes. It's like, get over it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I just see, anyway, I could go on about that for a while.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. The adversity piece. I always spent a lot of my time, I started scouting on the amateur side, and you'd go and you'd show up early at the ballpark, and you'd have pro covers in the summer. And I would love watching the stuff that happened off ball, like who's getting the ballpark early, how are they going through the routine, and the stuff you touched upon your freshman year at UF. Like, all right, this guy he's either not performing to the level that he is capable of or thinks he's capable of, or something went wrong, in the middle of a game. How does he respond to that? How does he bounce back?
Yeah.
The next pitch, the next at bat, the next game, the next season, whatever it is. And I love that stuff. I think that's maybe the biggest sort of value and skill you can take out of playing competitive sports is that ability to fail and how do you respond to it? Because everybody's going to fail, right? Yeah. It may be in Little League, it might be in college, it may be in the big leagues, but eventually you're going to fail. And then what? Right? Because that's, to your point, like that's what sets you up for the rest of your life.
That's right. And that's what that's the biggest thing. Again, I go back to Little League because I think that's such a good foundation of, in life. Like, a lot of these guys, what makes me so frustrated with them is they give up a hit, they walk a guy, they're not getting the calls they want, and they just start hanging their head and pouting. It's like, get over it, man. Like, I don't want to know if you gave up 10 home runs, if you struck out 10 times. I want to see you out there, same attitude, running on and off the field. Like, why are you walking? You're between the lines. Why are we walking?
Mm-hmm.
And all these kids got all the drip on them and, the armbands, this and that. And I'm like, some of it I don't care, but some of it I'm just like, man, I want to know, how are you performing when you're not performing well? Yeah. What's your attitude like then? And that's the same thing in life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, man. My son wanted to get these big, stunner shades for baseball season. I'm like, dude, you get those, you better rake. Like, you better show up and hit. If you're going to wear those, that's okay, but you better show up.
That's right. Hey, I don't mind it. Show up, play hard. You want that stuff? Fine. What kills me now is these kids wear the sliding gloves in their back pocket on defense. On defense. I'm like, dude.
They just know they're supposed to have them. They don't know what they're supposed to do with them.
What are we doing? Yeah. Take it out.
I know. It's funny.
Right.
These kids are, it's funny that you weren't part of the circuit growing up, right? You weren't perfect game, travel ball, that kind of stuff. You were playing multiple sports. And because of that, you felt like a little bit insecure maybe, or like you weren't sure how you stacked up, right? Maybe insecurity is trying to more, but everybody else is getting all this love and you weren't hearing it. And I spent a lot of time thinking and talking about this because I think it's doing kids a huge disservice. All of the extracurricular stuff that's going on around sports, the travel ball, the 19 different, East Cobb, when we were kids was, like the best of the best, 5 teams playing or 10 teams playing from across the country.
Right.
Now you show up and it's like the traveling all-stars. It's like RVs are in the thing. It's you got 400 teams running around. It's like, has the talent level improved that much where there's that many more good players, or is this just a money-making operation? Right. And so, what I do, and that's getting off the soapbox. My biggest beef with that is if you weren't wired the way you were, and maybe you had that feeling at 9 years old instead of, 17, Like maybe you're like, you know what, this isn't for me. You know, I'm clearly not good enough because I'm not on the, you know, PG4, whatever team rankings. So I guess I'm not good enough to play baseball. Right. And it's
Right.
like all these life skills that we've talked about when you're 7, 8, 9, 12 years old, like that are going to, you know, and have a potential to shape the rest of your life and who you are as a human being. Some kids are just going to walk away from that because they don't think they're allowed to play because they don't have all the drip and the elite rankings and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can lose kids that way. I think you lose kids that, you know, are inner city kids that would love to play baseball, but I can't go spend $1,000 to play on a team for these people this year. I don't know. At 11, a lot of the people go to like Pigeon Forge and stuff to play, I guess. You know, nothing wrong with it, but I just look at it and go, why am I going to go spend 10 grand to go watch my kid play the same baseball that he can play here in Tampa? Like, I don't see the appeal to it. Like, it means, you know, now I know that Cooperstown one is fun. That might be a different story. But I think you're right. I think a lot of kids that if they're on social media and looking, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be like that kid. And the kid will quit. And I will say that is unfortunate. But also it might be maybe he just wasn't developed enough mentally to, like, push through that and be like, I don't care. Or maybe he mentally wasn't ever going to be strong enough to make it in the first place. So but I hear what you're saying, and I think, but also I think it works, and I don't know if it's the opposite way, but you get a lot of these kids that dig themselves so much because of what people have wrote at 9, 10, 11 years old. I mean, we've had kids that I've talked to in the past. I'm like, dude, you can hit now and you could throw fuel right now. But that doesn't mean you don't listen to your coaches. It doesn't mean you should have a bad attitude. Like, dude, all those other things that you have are terrible. And I could promise you, I can go find another kid that does exactly what you do. That'll have a good attitude. That'll work hard. That'll push it. You're not special. Like, and that's the thing I think, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you're not special. There's a lot of kids that are just as talented as you that want to push. You know, and again, for me, when I was growing up, like, I remember, again, I was never ranked. I never did any of that. Like, I was up at 5 a.m. every day in high school, or most days in high school, going to train. You know, I was working on catching, and then I'd hit and then go to the gym, all before school starts at whatever, 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think it drove me to be a better player because I never was in those and I never was talked about. I was like, you know, so I think it has the opposite effect if you're always talked about at a young age. And then you go get hit in the mouth and go, oh, I'm not the best anymore. There's 15 other kids that are just like me.
Or we all hit puberty and things changed a little bit, you know?
Right. That's right.
No, it's funny that the irony is I love Mr. Rogers. I think he's got some incredible stuff but he's also done a huge disservice, and I'll help you print the t-shirts that just say you're not special, and I'll wear one every day, because I think that message, it's probably not super popular right now, but I think more people need to hear it. It's not an insult, right? It's like, you don't know everything. I don't know everything. So let's just keep working hard and figure it out together. But yeah, you're not special. And if you're special at 9, quote unquote special at 9, it doesn't mean you're going to be special at 19. You know, it doesn't, it does 0 for you.
You have to work
sometimes it can work against you.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I think to your point, so many people think that their kid is like extra special baseball player or football or whatever it is. I don't care what it is. And it's like, the world is so big, you're only seeing it in a small fishbowl. You're not that special. And you're really like, you know, and I had this conversation with our Little League, our youth kids. I said, guys, you guys need to look in the mirror and go, what can I do to get better? And if you don't know what you can do to get better, you guys all have my cell phone. Call me. Have your parents call me. I'm glad to tell them what you need to do to get better. And if you want to keep playing at other levels, call me and I'll help you. Right? And I mean, I just was straight up, because you all got work. You all got stuff to do. You know, and my kids aren't exempt from it. They know what they need to do, right? Like, and we tell them. I can't. I don't know.
Anybody take you up on that offer? Any parents take you up on that offer?
I haven't got a call yet. That was just yesterday, so I haven't got a call yet.
Okay. But no, I ask because I've thought a lot about this too, because I think the insight that people can offer that have been, I mean, honestly, like high performers at any level in any industry, people want to hear what makes them feel good generally, right? Tell me I'm pretty, right? Tell me how good I am. All these things.
Right.
And really what they need is the truth. Like, how can I get better? Like, I was an okay, like college player, right? I would have loved the opportunity to sit down with a scout and have him just pick my game apart and be like, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can do this a little bit. And just, okay, great. Now I know what to work on, you know? And
that's it.
Most people, I think they just want to hear, tell me what I'm good at, right? Like, show me what my rankings are. What's my spin rate, all this other stuff. And it's just a huge missed opportunity for them to focus on all those positives, whether they're meaningful or not, rather than, you know, listen to somebody who actually may have some expertise in the area and like, tell me if I'm not going to make it, why am I not going to make it? Right. What's my fatal flaw?
Yeah.
And maybe I can make it a little bit less fatal.
Or what do I need to do to get, like you said, what do I need to do to get it better? I mean, it kills me, you know, the game changer. Oh, what's my stats? What, did they give me a hit on that? Oh, was that an error? And it's like, dude, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. If I'm a scout watching you play today, I don't care if you're 4 for 4. Your attitude on the field sucks. Or if you're 0 for 4, but your attitude is good, and yeah, you know what? You got some athletic movement. I could probably work with you. You got speed. Right. You got this. Like, you know, it's like, who can I work with?
Yeah,
you know, that's.
I've seen a lot more. I've seen a lot more people move up the draft board because of makeup and who they are as human beings, than the other way. I mean, guys will. I've walked into draft rooms where guys are already on the sideboard. Like, we are just not drafting this guy. He might be the most talented player on the board. We're not taking him. I don't want him in my organization. You know,
that's right. I don't want to have that in my organization. I don't need that. There's other people out there that are just as good. I might not have found them yet, but they're just as good.
Right.
You know,
I think
we want good makeup guys, and people don't put value on that. They don't realize that because
they can't quantify it. No. You can't put a spin rate on character.
Yeah.
You know, you can't measure work ethic. All these things that you know when you see it and you feel it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like ask anybody on your team, you know, who the good teammates are and who the bad teammates are. I bet they will all pick the same kids. You know?
That's right. It's like, I want the good teammates, man. And I've seen that in my career. Like Chris Jimenez, I don't know if that name rings a bell, played a long time in the big leagues, but for the vast majority, he was a backup catcher. He might have, I don't know if he was drafted or if he was undrafted free agent out of college. I think he went to Reno, Nevada, somewhere. Anyway, the guy was a tremendous clubhouse guy. The guy was a tremendous teammate, worked hard, always encouraged. And he had a phenomenal big league career, right?
Those guys do two things typically. They stick around way longer than their talent should allow them to, right, on paper.
100%.
For a variety of reasons, one of which is they're great in the clubhouse. I've been on teams that have knowingly overpaid role players because of the impact that they would make in the clubhouse. Whether you have young kids on your team or you've got a particular, you know, hey, I need a veteran backup catcher to mentor my young starter, whatever it may be. Yeah. And the other thing they tend to do is they wind up usually on major league coaching staffs. They wind up being managers because they've just been paying attention, right? They've been there's not too many ex superstars that are managing or coaching in the big leagues, right? A lot of them were backup catchers, utility infielders, relievers, whatever it may be, because they were just sitting back watching, being good teammates, paying attention, learning, and they have a better understanding for the game.
No, that's right. And I mean, and it's the same thing. Like, that would have never happened to that guy if he always moped or didn't hustle. And it's like, guys, those are things that you can easily control. You can easily control that.
Yep.
So that's what I try to instill in the kids. And I mean, but to your point, there's a kid that we had last year on our team, and we actually just played him yesterday. This is kind of new. That's why, we're fresh. And the kid's name's Cam, and he's a left-handed stick. He played shortstop on our team last year, and he was a good fielder, but he's a bigger kid, so he's a little slower. Like, and I was like, I told his dad and his mom, I was like, I love the kid. Great kid, work ethic, hustles, all of it. I go, he's got something. He's not going to be a shortstop in the big leagues. And obviously I use the big leagues just as a stick,
Right.
but he's not going to project to be a shortstop most likely. I'm not an expert scout, but I'm like, you know,
I know
he's
something.
not going to be there. Yeah, I know something. He's not going to be a shortstop.
Yeah.
They moved him to third. He loves it. He's crushing it there. The dad texted me yesterday. He's like, man, he just hit his 4th home run today. And I'm like, that is amazing. The kid is such a good kid. He works at it though. And he's got a great attitude, plays hard. Like he's not flashy. You know, he doesn't pimp home runs. And I'm like, that's a kid you want to see succeed. How do I help you succeed? How do I help you get to the college? How do I help you get professionally? Call me anytime you want. Right? Those are the kids you're looking for.
Well, and both the kid and the parents, it sounded like, listen to
the parent. Yeah, that too.
Right? Instead of saying, you don't know what you're talking about. My kid's a shortstop.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's
Matt,
killing
this
it.
is a ton of fun, man. I appreciate you sharing your story. I'm glad you're helping shape the youth of America here with youth sports, because I think the stuff that we're talking about is important. Whether they ever play beyond middle school or not, doesn't really matter. But I think it's going to make them good human beings, which is way more important.
I agree. And thanks for having me on the show. And I mean, I think to your point, like whether they play high school baseball, middle school, college, pro, I don't care. It's more about the mentality of it. Like, I want you to know what it feels like to be, you know, like my kids, they get stressed out for tryouts. You're already on the team. I don't tell them that. You're already on the team. I want them to know what that pressure and stress feels like.
Yeah.
You know, I don't go, oh, buddy, why are you stressed out? You're already on the team. No, go compete for it. I want you to know what it's like to compete. Yeah. You know, to know that there's somebody right behind you that wants your spot. It's the same in life. You're the VP of finance today. There's a controller that wants your spot. They're doing everything they can to jump you.
So I learned this early in my career, was that the idea of you want to hire your replacement someday, right? And everybody can say that, right? And some people try to do it, and then they realize, like, oh, this freshman, he's better than me, right? Like the insecurity kicks in, and you're like, now I may have actually succeeded, and I may have hired my replacement. But the really good organizations, the really good leaders, independent of industry, like they embrace that and they find a way. They're like, all right, you know what? You're not going to replace me, but you are going to go over here and you replace that person, right? And all of a sudden you look up after 5 years and we're kicking ass as an organization because we got a bunch of, killers in our team.
That's right. I agree. I think that's spot on, man. That's when I'm looking at people and wanting to bring them in the mix. It's like, I want you to be better than me. And if you get to the point where you're better than me and there's nowhere for you to go, I'll help you go wherever you want to go. Let me help. I'll help you. I want to see you succeed. I don't, it's like, I don't want to keep a ceiling on you. If you've got talent, I either want you at the top of the leadership here, or let's go find another place for you where you can go be that top, because you deserve it. You worked hard for it, and you want it.
Wow, that's great, man. I love it. I think it not only helps your organization, but it helps, honestly, the industry, the universe as a whole, right? You get more good people out there floating around, making good decisions and leading things. That's good for all of us.
I agree. It fires me up doing that.
Love it. All right, man. Well, thanks again for the time. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great, Billy. Thanks, man. I'll have to get up there and play some golf or something with you in Ponte Vedra one of these days.
Yeah, there you go. Anytime. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for listening to this episode of the No One Is Watching podcast. If you'd like to support the show, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share it with your friends. If you're interested in similar content focused on leadership, culture, and high performance, check out nooneiswatching.com. Your time is valuable, so I appreciate you spending some of it with me today. See you next time.